Um, my name is Yves-Laurent Sivuilu. I'm responsible for our security SecOps group at Palo Alto Networks. So what we do, my team and I, we partner with our customers to help them modernize and transform and evolve. And what I'm looking to do today is to share some of the things that we've done that worked for us and our clients, but most importantly, to really demystify when we say AI-driven, what does that actually mean, right? In concept, what does that actually mean as it relates to the features and functionalities that we use and we leverage to provide the outcomes that you're looking for. Does that sound like a plan? We only have 30 minutes. I'll go fairly quickly. I can do this for 2 hours, but I'll be nice. I'll use 30 minutes, all right? And please, if you have questions, come see me afterwards. But this whole conversation always starts with the concept of the paradigm really shifting again. As you know, you're in this business, things never remain stagnant. Things continue to move. As you know, you have AI now in your lives. You are using it in some form or fashion. Your children are using Perplexity, so it's already around us, okay? So this is a new set of metric that I wanted to share with you guys, that you know that applications are continuing to evolve and they continue to grow, and AI is already something that is here today. It's not gonna be here tomorrow. It's something that's happening to us today in our lives. By the same token, when you look in the adversaries, we have the same concept. We are now seeing folks that are leveraging AI for different operations on the other side, on the adversary side. Some of the things that we're observing are going to be very simple. The time it takes to actually generate a ransomware, the time it takes to actually generate malware, going from hours to now minutes, okay? The time it takes to actually exfiltrate and exploit a vulnerability is going from hours and days and weeks to just minutes, okay? I'm sure you guys have heard this before, and you heard a lot of people talk about AI this and AI that. But when I said the paradigm has shifted, this is what I mean. This is happening to us in our business, in our lives, in our operations in real time, and it is time for us to think about the things we need to do to combat AI with AI. But most importantly, the challenge we have today continues to be that our operations is still plagued very much with the challenges that we see today. We're still having to deal with a lot of alerts. We're still having to make a decision on what alerts am I going to look at, which one am I not going to look at. I'm going to look at critical and high, and I'm going to ignore the rest, not because I'm a bad person, but because I only have so much time and so many tools that I can really leverage at once. So that presents a challenge. By the same token, the concept of automation, actually taking action on the asset itself, continues to be challenging for a lot of organizations, a lot of us sitting here. So yes, we can do the detection, but when it comes to time to actually taking action on the asset, we still have challenges there. So the paradigm is shifting in the sense that AI is here today, the adversaries are using it, but yet our tools and the way that we're doing things is still kind of lagging in many ways. What that means for you and I is that it is time to modernize. It's not time to look at what makes sense. It's time to look at how we leverage technology, how we layer it to where we can actually get the outcomes that we're looking for. I would typically ask you questions, but since we have 30 minutes, I'm going to skip very quickly. But when we say modernization, what does that actually mean, right? I asked the question, a lot of folks say, hey, it's just using AI to fight AI. That's true. It's using automation. That's true as well. A lot of different technology conversations come in. But I like to start with really outcomes. What are we looking to accomplish when we look at security operations as a whole? What are we after? We're after actually being efficient. It doesn't do me any good if I can get outcomes, but I have to use 200 tools and 1,500 people in my security operation. It's not even sustainable. So I have to be able to get to my outcomes, but I have to be efficient as a leader doing that. The second piece is going to be efficacy. I have to actually be able to stop, detect, and stop attacks. It's not enough to just have an alert and ponder on it. It's about having the precision that we need and having the security efficacy to actually take action when action needs to be taken. The third one is being resilient. How do I build an operation and I use tools and combinations of tools or platforms to actually be resilient such that if I see something today, I don't have to struggle again when I see it tomorrow, or if I see something similar in the future, I have built a resilient operation to be able to sustain that. Last but not least, that's also very important, is going to be the human aspect. You hear people talk about alert fatigue, shortage, there's not enough analysts, I can't hire people fast enough, all of the above. All that falls into one bucket. When we actually modernize and build new security operations, Are we looking at the human factor? Are we putting technology where we can maximize the outcome and focus our humans where they can actually give us the most value? And I'll talk to you I'll show you what that means as we go into the presentation. One more setup slide, and we get into the technology of it. When we say outcomes, from a security standpoint, for security operations standpoint, what that really means is I want to be able to analyze more data. So let me just put things in context for you before I continue on. The red triangle is going to be some of the customer. These are actually real customer data. This is not something we came up with or marketing came up with. So I looked at my customers across North America for the last year and a half, 2 years. We compiled the information. This is the summary of it, right? The red one is before we work with the customer, and the green triangle is going to be after. What are the outcomes we have accomplished together as a team? First and foremost, it's going to be we're able to analyze more data. But on average, using a platform and you working with the Cortex platform, on average, customers are seeing that they can use 4 times the amount of data to actually process and get meaningful data, meaningful outcomes. There's 2 reasons for that. The number one is you have to build a platform and you have to build the tool that makes it conducive for folks to actually put data into it so you can process it. It has to be quick. You have to build something where you can build applet and widgets so you don't have to be a data manipulator for every onboarding source that you want to use. And then number 2, from a price perspective, you have to make it conducive for folks to actually invest without having to break the bank. So we have to build that balance between getting more data and actually doing something with it without necessarily using up all of our budget, okay? Why do we need more data? Because it helps us with the second point, which is the false positive. If I have one alert and I make a security decision on one alert, it's going to be a very different decision than if I have the same alert with all the context around it, maybe from other sources, okay? So the security decision starts to become a lot more precise, and we start to diminish the chances of false positives. So more data, more correlated data, more meaningful data allows you to have a lot less false positive. And then the last one is going to be automation. I told you earlier, you can do all the detection you want, but if you're not able to actually take action on the asset, you haven't arrived yet. So leverage automation on top of that, combining all of those together so you can actually be able to respond in a timely manner. The triangle I'm showing you, before on average our customers, and these are very well-versed operations with a lot of great tools, a lot of knowledgeable staff, they're able to remediate in days at best, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 days, right? So 2 to 2 is actually very generous. By using AI and automation, a combination of those 2 has afforded them to go from days to only minutes. And I'll walk you through what that means. And I'll repeat, from days to only minutes, okay? And we'll talk about what that looks like. Which brings us to, what is the approach, Yves, that you're using that's really allowing you to go from days to minutes, to go from multiple alerts to less false positives? And this is what that is. I'm going to walk you through it very quickly, from left to right, from my left to my right, and then I'll tell you kind of how we layer the technologies, and then hopefully that's going to make sense. And hopefully this is where I'm going to demystify the AI-driven aspect that we talked about. So I'll start with this. On the very top, you see I have 3 columns: data engineering, detection engineering, automation engineering. This platform is built such that the data flows in the way that it will flow in a typical security operations center, okay? So there's logic behind the way the technology has been layered. If there's anything I want you to remember today, it's going to be that this platform is going to allow you to do data engineering, because cybersecurity is very much a data problem, add detection engineering on top of it, and combine automation, not into 2 different tools or 2 different flows in a single flow, okay? And on the bottom, I have some orange terms there. Those are what I call AI features, and I'll walk you through each one of them. But first and foremost, cybersecurity is very much a data problem, and we're going to start with actually doing something with the data. It starts with onboarding. I told you earlier that people give us 4 times the data because what you see on the left, we have integrations. We have about 1,000 different onboarding applet widgets that you can use. You log in, you go into a marketplace, you look for the vendor that you're looking for. and then you put in your username, password, certificate, whatever you're onboarding, the data starts flowing into the platform, and it flows into it forever until you decide it doesn't anymore. So the onboarding process is very conducive to you onboarding data very quickly and efficiently, okay? And on that front, remember, this is all data. This is very much a data platform first and foremost. Endpoint, network, cloud, identity, and any other tool. There's even folks using it for data from like tools like Workday as an example. So once the data is in, it's one thing to have one data lake with a bunch of bits and bytes, but it's another thing to actually make sense of it. And this is where you apply the first layer of artificial intelligence, the very first one. It's a machine learning engine, and it's called data stitching. What that means is just what it is, stitching the data, meaning we're trying to build the story of the data. And I give you a simple example. You have, where's Alexa? Alexa's not here. But anyway, Alexa may be on the network. She's using a laptop, okay? She's authenticating on it. She's using Okta. There's maybe a SailPoint engine, identity engine that's behind all that, that's helping. She's on the browser. She's on the network. She's doing a cloud transaction. She's accessing maybe a blob storage. All of those different pieces, all those different places are all stitched into a single story, the story of Alexa, okay? So when the data comes in, it's no longer something that you have to figure out, I have to figure out. Because of all the integrations that we have, we can now build that story. And that happens for every entity, not just a person. It could be a domain controller, it could be a switch, anything. And it happens, the stitching is continuous. It never ends, like I said. So by virtue of just putting the data in, even if you didn't do a single thing, the platform itself is going to use the first level of AI to be able to build those entities and those stories. I'm going to tell you why that's important here in a minute. And then once you have the story, you have all the data, you make sense of it, you understand the relational map between all the different pieces, you can now go and apply detection models for the first time. So, and I'm saying that's a second layer when I'm saying AI detection. And remember, because you have data from different places, from endpoint, from cloud, from switch and whatnot, detection simply becomes detection. You don't have to do endpoint detection here, network detection here, cloud detection here. All that goes away. Remember, all the data is in one place. You understand your data now, and you apply detection. And for that, we have over 2,000 AI detection models. There could be two AI models and analytics combined. And that happens continuously. That's why you see the little bubble. That's me, because it's very much a living entity that's doing this for you continuously, day and night, okay? By virtue of doing that, you'll have a lot of different alerts and type of alerts bubbling up. You're going to have, this is why you see the 24, 22 alerts. In a typical world, if you didn't have a single platform, you'd have 5, 10, 15, 20 different tools. Each of them are going to give you alerts. Then you have to go make sense of it. Maybe you go buy a SIEM. Maybe you buy a data pipeline platform. And that's where the whole tools sprawl begins in the first place. Now, when these alerts pop up, instead of us giving them to you and saying, hey, Chris, this is your problem, good luck, see you later, we apply another layer of AI, which is alert grouping. Remember, we needed to build the story of Alexa. We needed to build the story of the entity. Now, because we understand the story, we can say, this endpoint alert and this network alert, this cloud alert, this identity alert are all connected to the story of Alexa. What am I going to do for you? I'm going to wrap it up into one object that I call an incident, and I'm going to give it to you. This is why I'm going from 2,500 alerts now to 93 incidents. And the 93 incident is just a collection of all these alerts that I would have had to figure out on my own, but instead the machine has done the work for me because we've done the data engineering work in the front end. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okay. I see some nodding. Good. And then behind that, we'll go ahead and add automation. So now that we know these alerts and these incidents, we can now go and take automated action on assets. And I'll come back to what that means. But for now, I wanted to just walk you through. This all happens in a single flow inside of a platform. There's very little to no human intervention, okay? So let me get a little bit into the detection engineering piece, just so you understand the details, because it's always a very important topic. You'll have the data fusion where I told you the data engineering, we organize the data, we normalize the data, we label the data, we associate the data, and that's the data fusion engine I told you about. That's the first piece of it. And then once the data is ready into what we call a single data model, we apply detection on top of it. But what does detection really mean from our perspective? It means a few things. First of all, it means profiling the data. This is your data. These are your own entities. We need to understand, for example, for a domain controller, I can say we need to look at the assets or the entity over time and see its behavior against the services on the network, okay? And its behavior within its own peer group. For example, I may have 10 domain controllers. I want to benchmark that. And also, its behavior against external entities, because if there's a small deviation, we want to be able to leverage that. So again, the data is there. This is an engine that's working continuously for you day and night, even when you're having your coffee in the morning. The second piece of it I already talked to you about, which is the detection, the different detection engines that you're going to apply to actually detect. The third piece of it is going to be, because we have adversaries that are now using AI and techniques and tactics, you can now map your detection, you can map your incident and what you see to the MITRE framework so you can understand the techniques and the tactics that are associated with this incident and this group of incidents. Even better, if I'm a CISO, I may be able to run a global report on MITRE attacks across my entire platform, which is gobbling data from a lot of different assets, and I can make a smart decision on where I want to invest in tools next or in training. So a lot of different ways you can use this data. The last point I wanted to bring up, because this is something that is lost on a lot of folks, and I want to make sure I specify that. As much as we've added AI features to help the analysts, this is still very customizable, right? We can run the AI models on top of your data. You can still run your own correlations if you wanted to. Nobody says you can't do that. It's your data, right? You can run your own third-party intelligence feed if you wanted to. It's not uncommon for customers to say, yes, PALO, I trust all your AI models or whatnot, but I've worked with this vendor for the last 5 years and I trust them. Give me the feed. Give me the feed. I'm an AI engine. I'm going to go ahead and apply my detection, and then I'll apply set detection on top of it. So we want you to know you're not going to be locked into just one model or one detection model. You can add on top of it. We even have customers that actually build their own data models and even use this for non-cybersecurity use cases, okay? So very open. A lot of things are given out of the box, but at the same time, it's very open on its own. Now, I talked to you about understanding the story of the data, and then reducing that into a set of alerts, of incidents. But what I haven't told you is, you just give me terabytes and terabytes of data a day. It ranges from endpoint to vulnerability assessment, attack surface, all kinds of data, even HR information. One of the things that we added in this platform is called the AI score. It's an AI interpreter. I have 10 minutes. I told you, I'm very bad with this, but we can do it. So thank you. So wouldn't it be nice if, even if I gave you 93 incidents, wouldn't it be nice for you to come in the morning and for me to say, of this 93 incidents, here's the incident you have to look at first. Because what I've done is I've actually looked at all the data I have that you've given me across terabytes of information, alerts or non-alerts. It includes alerts. It includes behavior. It includes the state of the machine. It includes, is there something vulnerable on it or not? What version of OS? I take all that information and I say, because of all this information I have, you should come and look at this first. So I'm going to give you an AI score of 95 out of 100 versus 85 out of 100. And I will explain to you how I have arrived to that score. Okay? So I'm going to go very quickly. And then now that this is done, you can run automation on top of all that, because at the end of the day, like I said, you have to take action on the asset. You have to be able to say, remember the integration I told you how I can onboard the data? I can onboard the data from a switch, but equally it's a two-way integration, because now I can go to the switch and take action if I so choose. It's very common for folks to take action on an endpoint, because it's usually the first thing. Maybe isolate the device, or maybe go ahead and isolate the profile, force password. There are a lot of low-hanging fruits that we can automate, but know that this is 100% automation. You can go as 100% as you want, or 20. We see a lot of folks be between 20 and 30%. It's a comfort level, but the platform is certainly capable of doing all that. It's about where we feel like we can find efficiencies. We see a lot of benefits in phishing cases, for example. We see customers go from hundreds of phishing incidents to only a few because we're not taking advantage and we're closing cases on the fly because the automation is fully functioning. One thing I wanted to tell you is, remember I told you about knowing your data and understanding your profiles. Extremely important. Now you have an opportunity for the automation to be able to work in conjunction with other features. For example, if I've learned your environment, I've learned your profiles, I come back to the domain controllers, I know you have 10 domain controllers, right? I see an incident on this domain controller, you ask me to run this specific automation, we close the case. 2 hours later, I see the same IOCs, the same issues on another domain controller, right? I can come to you and say, I've learned your data, I've looked at the prevalence information, would you like me to run this automation for you now or in the future? Now, because the platform understands your data, understands the prevalence information, and seen the action you have taken before, we can now become proactive, and we can help you have a better security operation. So, key here is, I don't have a lot of time, the automation piece is very connected to the detection engineering, very connected to the data engineering. So it's all, again, one flow, one platform, it's not different products. Lastly, generative AI. This is the piece where we actually help the analysts do their job, right? If I have a new platform, or I'm looking for a specific IOC, or maybe I need to do a specific SQL query, I cannot interact with the machine. I have this last because I didn't want to start with this because I wanted you to understand all the other features that you can layer in the front. You can still leverage a lot of AI without necessarily having Gen AI. But Gen AI is extremely powerful, as you know, in what we're doing today. A lot of folks out there are only talking about Gen AI as the only form of AI, right? But I'm here to tell you that there are multiple ways, there's multiple different AIs, including Gen AI, that you can use in your operation. So, I'm skipping some slides here, but I'll be here for questions. What does really being AI-driven means? It means one thing. It means using different types of AI, different approaches where it matters. Keyword is where it matters. We talked about machine learning, where we can do that with the data fusion, where the data comes in, the volume of data, building the story, correlating all the data, doing the data stitching, and doing the detection engineering, applying the model. Deep learning, this is on your own data, building the profile, understanding your own data, understanding the story, understanding the behavior, and baselining the behavior. Third piece, generative AI. We now want to interact with the machine. We want to interact with the data. We want the machine to look for certain things for us within the data set and the data model that you or I probably wouldn't have with the limited knowledge that we have. And last but not least is the AI interpreter. I can give you all the data, but if I don't look at all the data you've given me and I have processed without giving you an indicator on how you need to prioritize your response, I haven't arrived yet. So from our perspective, it's about combining these three in a way that makes sense. Chris, I'm going to skip your slide. I know you like it. I'm going to skip it. But what this also means for our clients is all the functions that you would have used in the security operations that you would have had to buy different tools for and maintain different data sets and integrate them and organize them and correlate them, that problem goes away because now these functions, because all your data is in one place, those functions are actually built in because the data exists in one place. Okay? I'll stop there. How am I doing on time? Do I have time for questions? 6 minutes. Okay, we went really fast. Do we have any questions? Do we have any comments? Do you want to come talk to me afterwards? Yes, sir. Wait, please.
Thank you, sir, for your presentation. I would like to give you the opportunity to because there was a slide where you spoke about the different applications of AI other than generative AI.
Yes.
About the different functions that you integrate with your platform. And I would like to give you opportunity to maybe just entertain us about the different ways that we can apply other AI other than generative in this sort of analysis.
Okay, thank you. The different types of AI, let me go back to, so this was the slide where I was talking about the different ones, but I kind of looked at it as a whole. So we do use machine learning, and you can do deep learning on your own data to understand your entity. So that's a different engine. And then the machine learning is going to be a different engine because the machine learning is going to be used in two ways. Number one, it's going to be used for the data fusion itself, when all the flux of data is coming in, making sense of it. Instead of doing it manually, we want to have the machine do it for us. And when we talk about being human empowered, what we really mean is exactly that. When the flux of alerts and the flux of data is coming into my security operations, am I putting humans and asking them to do this at 3 a.m. in the morning? Or am I letting the machine build this structure, build the relations between the different data? This way, when it's presented to me, it's presented in a friendly way. I don't have you know what, maybe I do have it here. This is a great example. Okay, here's a great example, right? So when the data comes to me, right, by the way, if I'm an analyst and I'm logging in, this is my first screen that I see when I'm opening an incident. What this means is that there are 26 alerts that have come from 26, I repeat, 26 different tools, okay? So if you didn't have this approach, you would have 20 alerts from 26 different tools, and hopefully you make sense of. Hopefully you make sense of. But because we have the data fusion engine, we have now, this is why it was so important to understand the story of Alexa, right? Because now you have all that packaged to you. This is what we call an object, a living thing, for those that have done object-oriented programming. The object is presenting to you with the data that you need, the alerts, the assets that have been affected by it, the automation piece. If you see on the bottom, it says 9. These are the automation tools that I have already ran for you before you even showed, because you gave me permission last week. So now I've already ran this for you, but I'm going to come to you and say, there's 4 other automations we need to run, and we need an analyst to approve those. And then there's other ones that I can suggest to you, because I know your data. I have a set of customers on PALO ALTO networks. You should absolutely expect me. I repeat, you should absolutely expect me to suggest things to make your operations better. That should be an expectation, right? And that's what we're doing here. So to answer your question, that's the piece where all that processing is going into the front end. So I'm going to go back. Long-winded answers, I know. And then the second piece was going to be the deep learning. Those are the different entities, because in order for me to suggest things for you and your assets and your environment, I have to do enough deep learning to have learned and understood it. If I'm giving you a suggestion on a domain controller, I have to have seen the data for that domain controller for 30, 40, 60, 70, maybe 90 days. If I've seen a domain controller behave in a specific way for the last 2 years, and then we get up one morning, I see a deviation, and then 2 hours later, I see another deviation, something that you wouldn't have caught, I wouldn't have caught, but the machine would catch it and tell you, hey, Mark, you may want to take a look into this, okay? That's why the deep learning is so important. And then, again, the generative AI is just really working with the practitioners, helping them dig into tools. I'm done with time. And then the interpreter is definitely giving you that indicator. I hope I've answered your question. Okay. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. I appreciate your patience. I'm going to be here for questions, okay?
A minute. You still have 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Oh, thank you.
If we have a quick question, he can answer it. But I'm not sure he's going to be able to answer it in 1 minute. I think I'm going to keep you on the side.
We better run to the mic.
Okay, so
yes, please.
sorry, I never hear my voice usually.
I can hear you. Thank
It's
you.
impressive.
Just quick question, just making sure. So our data, if used by this platform, is then going to be used to improve the platform for other customers?
So there's something we call prevalence data across different. First of all, your instance is just your instance, right? We apply to all the regulatory bodies. I can talk to you after that. So it's not going to be. We're not putting everybody in the same lake. But most importantly, there's going to be certain things that you might be able to see. For example, we've seen an incident in the last 24 hours, and this is the IOC that we've seen, and we have ran this specific type of automation against it. Wouldn't it be nice for you to wake up 6 hours later for me to tell you, hey, I've seen this another 50 times in the last 24 hours. I recommend you use that. That is one of the ways that we use it. But it's not going to be, we're not going to dig into your data or anything like that. It's just going to be prevalence information, metadata stuff. Okay?
Mesdames et messieurs, Yves-Laurent, Sivuilu, merci beaucoup, vraiment.
Merci. Allez, thank you.